I got all my chips on Oscar. The more I think about that guy and the more I think about his character, his demeanor, his racecraft, I think that he just has all the ingredients to be a champion. And I think based on the current trajectory, there's a good chance he might make that happen this year.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to F1 True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Back here with the boys, Thomas, Drew, I'm Walker. And we got Miami. The race that I think 2 weeks ago, no one here was looking forward to. But Drew, we were talking to you over the weekend and you were like, I'm jonesing for a race.
Yeah, I just need something. And you know what? I'll take Miami at this point. I'm not happy about it, but beggars can't be choosers.
You take what you can get.
That's it.
Maybe it'll be great.
Could be great.
Could be wonderful.
Could be great.
You guys have too much high hopes on Miami.
Really? So you've got no hopes for Miami. Okay, well, let's start there. What are your expectations of Miami, Thomas?
It's going to be very, very boring. There's going to be no safety cars. It's probably going to be Lando Piastri number 1, and then like Georgie Boy number 2, and then I don't know, Charles Leclerc number 3, and it's just going to be full celebrities, same thing as always. I'm not looking forward to this race. It's please, any other race at this point, just Miami. It just seems like so much. It takes away from the race. It's all about the celebrities and all about the posh and all about the famous people getting there. So I don't like Miami at all. It's not my favorite track. Like, you know what Drew said, he's like, I'll take it for what it is, but to me, it doesn't have to exist.
Wow. Okay.
Did you just say Lando Piastri? Were you combining them, or were you actually like
Lando or Piastri, most likely?
Or Lando
Piastri
or Piastri. Okay.
What if we told you that it was going to be a sprint race weekend? Does that change anything?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Well, I like the fact that they decided to put a sprint race here, and I thought that was quite interesting. I kind of like the sprint race format. It added a little bit of excitement to China because we had Lewis Hamilton win his first race at Ferrari, which I thought was quite interesting. But you know what? Like, I think at this point in the season, we're only 5 races deep, and I don't even mind the celebrity thing. I'll get over it. You know what? On a Sunday, is it something for me to just like sit down and watch? Is it like a version of like a Super Bowl? Sure. But any race that you can fit around the Hard Rock Stadium in a parking lot, I don't like. How high could you have had for hopes? You know, like what expectations can you really put when you have the paddock inside of a stadium and you're essentially making 12, 13, and 14 corners in a parking lot? It was designed in a parking lot. You know, they got everything, man. They got a bunch of boats you can buy and a fake little marina that they put into one of the... Like, come on. They've done everything they can to make it entertaining for us as race fans. Now, could they have made the racing better? I don't know. They tried it. I was just reading something that, you know, the owner of the Hard Rock Hotel there, he had some UK designers come up with 75 different course track layouts for that parking lot, I guess, dimensions. And they took 35 of those to simulators. And this is the one they came up with that was the most entertaining and I guess the best racing. So they did everything they could. I'm actually pumped for Miami. Again, is it because I've been squeezed out of F1 for the last couple weeks? Probably. But I'm here for it. It's going to be good.
I didn't realize that's how they came up with this configuration.
Mm-hmm.
Just simmed it.
They just simmed it.
I don't know if you have raced this track on F1 2025, but it's tricky, man. It is not a fun track to drive.
No.
It's no
that
flow.
Double corner underneath the
yes.
bridge. That's a thing, man.
Fucks me up every single time.
I come in there way too hot.
Always.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're a little underwhelmed by the track, a little underwhelmed by maybe the racing itself. Drew, like you said, we have a sprint race this weekend. Do we think we're going to see the sprint race favor someone different than perhaps the Grand Prix? I know we're going to go through some predictions, but who do you think, the sprint race favors this coming weekend?
I got all my chips on Oscar. The more I think about that guy and the more I think about his character, his demeanor, his racecraft, and just his ability to perform under high pressure situations. I guess maybe not even just perform under high pressure situations, but not crumble under the same bad pressure situations. I think that he just has all the ingredients to be a champion. And I think based on the current trajectory, there's a good chance he might make that happen this year. It's not an impossibility. And I'm here for it. And I think that that McLaren's going to have a great car for this, as we saw last year during Lando's first win. I think that McLaren's going to absolutely dominate this. And I don't know if the sprint race is going to come up with a different, I guess, ending than the race. I think it'll be a McLaren kind of takeover this weekend. I'm going to be honest with you guys.
So I think I'm going to stick with my original predictions for the Grand Prix and the sprint. I have a feeling, same as you, Drew, Oscar is going to take home the win, although I could also see Lando fighting for it, just kind of like as a revenge. So definitely the McLaren boys in the podium. I see that 100% sure. And for whatever reason, I see George in there as well. And for number 3, I probably see Leclerc or Hamilton fighting in the podiums. Something screams about them. It's just Hamilton being there or Ferrari being there, and McLaren for sure. I have a feeling that, like you said, Drew, it's going to be a McLaren dominated weekend sprint and the Grand Prix.
So I don't know what's happened to Thomas the last few weeks, but he's become a bit of a Hamilton fanboy. Drew, that
I don't know about that.
I don't know what's going on here, but like you've had Hamilton on the podium for like 2 weeks in a row.
The man in red, okay? Like I am rooting for him so much. I want him to win. At least before he retires, I want him to win at Ferrari. I want to see him more on podiums. I'm just pumped for him, and I know it's going to come true, and I know it's going to happen. So yes, I have become. I don't want to say like a super fan, but yes, I do have way more. I guess I'm cheering for him way more this season.
I think Lewis is just not into these regulations. Like, I've just come to assume that like the ground effects era and Lewis Hamilton is just like oil and water, and it's just not something that he's going to get good at. So like, I'm thinking that this year is just going to be banked up as like getting comfortable with Ferrari, learning how to use Brembo brakes versus some of the other carbon brakes that Mercedes was using. There's just a whole, like, to think that Lewis was going to jump into Ferrari and just be like top tier the entire time was very wishful thinking. Was I on board with that? Did he show us that glimpse of greatness during the sprint race at the Chinese Grand Prix? 1,000%. Did that, build me up for an epic failure the next couple weeks? Absolutely. But I just think that Lewis is not going to be gunning for podiums this year. I think that that's just not what's going to happen. And I hope that he gets into the rhythm faster with the 2026 regs. But yeah, I don't have high hopes for him, unfortunately.
So who?
I hope you're
wrong. I think what we've learned about Thomas is that he just loves an underdog. Like the diehard Valtteri Bottas fan, he just loves an underdog story. So now we know the way to your heart, my friend.
Hell yeah.
These regulations came in, 2021, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Or was it after that?
It was 2020. I can't remember.
Was it 2020? Anyways, so we've had 4 or 5 years of these regulations. I'm trying to think of other drivers around that were maybe racing then, that are still racing now, that have had the same level of difficulty adjusting to this era of car. I'm having a tough time coming up with somebody
because they're not around.
And maybe the delta is just too big because you're comparing somebody who won for 7 years in a row to now not, right? And you have Alonso, I guess, right? But Alonso has been, at the end of the previous regulations, even into these ones, he's been like mid-pack probably. So you're not seeing that big of a difference. Who else has been there? Try to think. Perez.
Yeah, Checo was. Honestly, there was a bunch of them, like even K-Mag and Nico Hülkenberg. You know what I mean? Like both of those guys were in the other regs. But then you have Vettel, right? Sebastian Vettel. Like he was a guy that came in and obviously he went to a different team and Aston Martin wasn't looking so pretty. And I just think that there was a lot of guys who just left the sport that weren't renewed or went to lesser teams, so the expectation wasn't as high. And I don't know if they didn't gel with the ground effects thing and if it was the same thing. But again, to your point, Walker, like that delta was pretty big, right? And we get to see, the polar opposites of somebody like Lewis winning to all the way to, struggling to get into Q3s, right? So I just think that that gap is very big. And I think if anyone else, dropped off that fast, that they weren't going to get renewed. But how can you not renew somebody like Lewis Hamilton, right? I think other people wouldn't have got the opportunity to stick around in the mid-pack as much as Lewis has in the last few years.
So I'm curious how much of a difference these new regs are going to be, and if they're going, because there's still some ground effects. It's just that their effects are being limited. And I think the original reason they were limiting them was because of the bouncing and the porpoising, which most teams seem to have under wraps right now. But another conversation for another day. But I'm just curious, is it going to be enough of a divergence from the current style of driving that someone like Hamilton is going to be able to, return to dominance, assuming that is the issue?
I think too, the new part of the regulations is a lot to do with the active aero. Right? Because they're going to be like 50-50 battery power. And then I guess based on these new changes that the FIA is looking into, it'll be 50-50 and then essentially 63 whatever. It's pretty much 50-50 and 60-40, depending on the track, right? But ultimately, the new active aero is the difference, right? Because the front wing is also going to drop down to go flat so that the air resistance is less. Same with the DRS is going to drop the wing flat again, right? So they'll have access to a couple other tools in their tool belt. And I think it's, what teams are going to be able to put together that whole package, right? Mercedes, as of right now, obviously it's all speculation, but Mercedes thinks that they have the power unit figured out the best. They look like they're going to be the team to beat. But the whole reason these all came into, conversation was the fact that, Formula One was looking at getting new engine manufacturers in, right? And namely, they were looking at Volkswagen, right? So when you got Volkswagen that's doing that, and they are, Audi jumped in, Porsche was going to, but they couldn't come to terms with the new engine regs, so they backed out. And then you have Cadillac, GM coming in, and they accomplish their mission, right? Their mission was to get more engine manufacturers involved, and they did, right? So, I know that Cadillac is going to be using Ferrari engine for the first few years, but the FIA did approve them for 2029 engine manufacturer, right? So they got a lot of work to do, but 2029 will still be in this set of engine regs, because I think they're going from 2026 to 2030, or at least that's what they've capped off so far. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But I think, whatever team puts together the best package, just like it is this year, is obviously going to dominate, right? So I'm interested to see how that's going to go. And I'm interested to see how the drivers are going to adapt. From what I've learned, they're all already in simulators playing with these new regulations, with the active aero and everything. So these drivers are already getting time in the seats to test this out, right?
It's wild. We should do like a whole episode, like really doing a bit more of a deep dive on these regulations and what's changing. And, right now it is end of April, 2025. And these regulations aren't even set in stone yet. Like some of these things aren't finalized. Drew, you were talking about some engine regs that were looking to change. And it's just wild to me that in a sport like Formula One, when there's so much planning and there's so much engineering and time and research that has to go into it, that you can be, for all intents and purposes, like 9 months away, 8 months away, and still be figuring shit out from a regulatory standpoint.
Crazy. It looks so unorganized as like the largest motorsport, championship in the world. Like, get your shit together, figure it out.
So do you feel comfortable? Can I put you on the spot? Go ahead, Thomas.
Sorry, yeah. So to add kind of to Drew's point, and to your point too, Walker, with these whole, regulations coming in every year, or, once every couple of years, whatever the case is, it's also, to me, really surprising and concerning, because you would at least hope FIA or, whoever is in charge of making these regulations would give the teams at least a solid year, if not more, to prep and to develop and do all that, debug the engines and everything. But once and have those rules set in stone. Essentially, this is what we want for next year. These engines, these specs has to have a minimum, maximum of whatever. But like you guys said, 8-9 months going into basically till next season, and it's still kind of up in the air. It's very chaotic, very all over the place, and I really find that strange. And that kind of also ties in with some rule changes they do with just with tracks and the penalties and stuff. Like, I don't know how you guys feel, but like having a rule change midway through the season or late in the season also kind of like, I don't know, it takes the fun away. It doesn't seem super fair, in my opinion. So I don't know their whole process, but it just seems not really fair to what they're doing, and just kind of chaotic and unorganized, and just a little bit embarrassing, quite frankly.
I mean, looking at some of the decisions that are being made and some of the things that they're considering right now, I understand why someone like me hasn't thought about these problems yet, because it's me, right? But they were supposed to be like the smartest engineers and people at Formula One and FIA, and they're still just figuring it out.
Arguably on the planet.
Arguably on the planet, yeah. Some of the smartest engineers on the planet, and they're like, oh shit, man, I just realized.
Yeah.
Right?
What happens when we run out of batteries halfway through a straight? Like, did no one think about this before they started putting the limits on this? I don't know. Did they just have higher hopes in the teams in order to like construct these engines better? Right? Like, I know that they're pushing, from my understanding of it, they're pushing the teams to get smarter with their battery deployment and how that goes, because the teams with battery at the end of the straight will do much more passing, so that the way that they kind of like send out that battery energy in terms of horsepower, the smarter teams and how they deploy that will be winning the races.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens, and see maybe that just becomes part of the strategy, right?
It will be. It has to be.
And that's just it, right? It's not. Maybe that's not something that's going to be highly regulated in terms of like how it's deployed, right? And some teams will have a slower, more even deployment. You were going to say something?
Yeah, my question to you guys is then, like, at what point are we talking about like games and strategy? Because what they're also going to have is like a turbo button. So now instead of like a DRS, they're going to have like an instant like 50 kilowatts
push
of
to pass or whatever. Yeah,
essentially a push to pass button, right? Because when they're at the tracks like Monza, Miami with the long straights, they're going to drop that to the 200 kilowatts instead of the 350. So every team's going to be on the same playing field, but then you're going to have this push to pass button that's going to be at specific spots on the track. So obviously like DRS zones or something very similar to that. So I guess my overarching question is like, are they trying to gamify this too much? Like something similar to Formula E, like where they have those like where they got to drive off the track to get these little power boosts, and then if you get voted driver of the day, you get an extra power boost. Like, are they gamifying this too much and taking away like raw head-to-head racing with the fastest cars? Like, what are we doing here?
So the way I see it, they, in my eyes, as someone as a car enthusiast, as someone that loves Formula One, I think they're going a little bit too close to Formula E specs. Now I get for development purposes they have to use battery. Technology is advancing. Fine, totally understandable. But I think to what you said, Drew, it's becoming a little bit like of a game, and adding kind of like useless things. Essentially, a little bit, it becomes. I don't even know what the word, kind of childish, kind of like a video game. It takes away from racing. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit old school, but it's getting a little bit too much advancements and too much wild ideas out there. And especially this year, I really noticed it. If they're going to continue going this level, unfortunately, I could see myself jumping out on F1 because it's becoming a little bit ridiculous at this point in my eyes. Again, having said that, technology advancement, all fine, but it's getting really close to Formula E levels, and those two sports should be day and night apart. And it seems like they're really close together at this point.
You hear that, F1? You hear that, FIA? You are risking losing Thomas. Think about that.
Goodness. And think about all of our listeners. They're all out too because they follow us blindly.
They're all out. I'm just thinking about this some more. I feel like we're going off on a million tangents in this episode, which is fine. But think about the active aero that they have. I wonder if there's going to be an automated system where it reactivates, like at the end of a straight or something like that. So like we don't have like people like pulling a doing, like going into a corner with like the DRS open and having 0 downforce. Because, you know, drivers are going to push that. They're going to extend. They're going to push, try and go into the corner, get a little more speed. And then all of a sudden, mayhem ensues.
I think the active arrow will be very similar to how DRS is done. Like, I think it'll just be like an auto click off once they like reach a certain zone or whatever. Or, I don't know.
But it's not an auto click off.
Well, obviously, we all learned that from Jack Doohan.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all learned that from Doohan.
Anyways.
But I think that, like you said, like, I think they learned a lesson from that. And like they can't have that stuff again because that was a nasty crash. Like the fact that he walked away from that unscathed is incredible. Yeah. Like he came,
and now it's like front and rear. Like you've got like no downforce. Like nothing's holding you to the ground anymore. Wild. This is all going to be interesting. How it all
next season
unfolds.
Preseason testing is going to be just like an absolute clown show. It's gonna. You know what? There's going to be so many. You know what? It's going to be exactly like this, Rags. With the porpoising. Do you remember all the teams just bouncing up and down the entire track? Like it just was hilarious. And I think it's going to be a lot of that. I think there's going to be half a season of these guys just like figuring it out. Like there's going to be cars just dying on the straight and people driving past them like they're in a toy car.
So the solution is just bring back the
like Formula E V10s.
Bring back V10s, Dave. Let's get this biofuel going. Let's run it off fucking cooking oil. I don't care how you do it. Figure it out. Run it off water. You guys figure it out. Not my problem. But
yeah,
let's roll some V10s.
Let's go. We were so excited to talk about Miami that we basically didn't talk about Miami. We found the first topic to segue off of Miami. That's how much we want to talk about Miami.
We talked about the fake marina and the boats for sale before we talked about the Miami race. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, it's gonna be a great race. Okay, let's go back to Miami just for a moment.
Do we know who's introducing all the drivers? Do we got LL Cool J doing the WWE intros again? Because I want to hear him butcher these new names. He's got a bunch of new rookies like Kimi Antonelli.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited to hear him try Jack doing. There's no way he's gonna get these.
I don't know. I'm not sure who's gonna be there. So let's get back to the racing. The reason we are here to discuss racing. Who has the nicest Miami livery?
Ferrari's coming with a white one.
Yep, the merch
Isn't
drop.
it a blue one that they said?
I thought it was white.
Their outfits are white. I don't know what the car's going to look like.
Got you. It's because of the new Puma partnership or something, right?
Yeah, but even Mercedes has like a nice looking T-shirt.
I'm pumped for the merch. I need to get some Miami merch because this shit's always dope and the colors are always wild and
it always looks sick.
Yeah, they look dope with the pinks and the blues and shit. I'm here for it. Get some Miami Vice going. I'm here.
All right, now we're going to talk about the racing.
Okay, now,
100%.
Yeah, let's do it.
Sprint race predictions. I know we touched on it. Let's get them in stone. Thomas, who do you got? Sprint race.
I'm going to say first, Lando Norris is going to come with a vengeance. He's going to be first. He's going to basically say, F you, Oscar. I am here with the vengeance. I'm going to get the sprint race and possibly even the race. Second, I have a feeling is going to be, like I said, George Russell with Mercedes. And third, Charles Leclerc.
Okay. I got Lando for first on the sprint race. I think you're very valid with that point. I think he's going to come out swinging. I think he has the track pedigree here because he won it last year. I think he's got something special going on with the track. So let's assume that Lando's going to do number one. I think number two is going to be Max because Max is going to pull a Max. And then I think number three is going to be George Russell. I'm with you on that. I think that Mercedes is looking really nice. And I don't think that George has disappointed yet. I think that for the sprint race, we got those three. And I think that if I could name a fourth, I think that Charles would be on that fourth place. I think Ferrari will be right up there.
Interesting. So we're all on board. Lando 1. I got George 2. I don't know what that guy's doing, but by the way, did you hear his comment about if he was in the same car as Lewis pre reg changes, that he would be a 2-time world champion?
The fact that he had to sit there and figure that out of what 2 championships of the 7 he would have taken away from Lewis is fucking astronomical. Like
presumably the last 2.
He thinks he would have done it. He thinks he would have pushed Max out. Max was on a tear. There was no chance. Max was on the come up.
No, but if he was on the same team as Lewis, if he was the number 2 driver in Mercedes, or the other driver in Mercedes for championships 6 and 7, those years, that he would have won the championship because by his logic, he beat Lewis in the 2 seasons that they were racing together. Ergo, he would have been champion twice.
He's punching. He's punching on that
He's
one.
dreaming.
I don't know, buddy. Yeah, I don't know about that.
He just makes it so hard to like him.
Yeah. I was just watching some promo videos for Mercedes and like watching him, Toto, and Kimi like doing some like funny promo stuff. There was no audio or anything. He just looks like a purger. Like the people on the Purge? The people on the Purge, like the movie, that are like white privilege and they wear those like masks and they go around with like their bats and they knock on people's doors and they try to kill. Like he just looks like the quintessential white privilege. Like if he was from the States, he would have definitely like road crew for like Princeton or Harvard. You know what I mean? Like that guy's road crew, and he's also assistant captain on like the field lacrosse team.
Yeah, I know. Like he's racing well. I want to cheer for him. I want to like him, and then you see these quotes, and these could have been taken out of context. So we'll
How could that be taken out of context? How
I don't know.
Would be 2-time world championship if I was. How could you piece that together out of context?
Maybe it was like you're like talking shit with your boys or something, like, and someone overhears you. Like I get it.
The crazy part is he had to think about that. He's like, it would have been these 2 years. Like he thought about it, so he's dreaming about it.
Anyways, and I still put him in second because he is driving well, even though he's making douchey comments like that. But whatever. And number three, who's gonna be my third? I'm gonna go Leclerc, third on the sprint.
Leclerc.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys kept
Leclerc.
Max off this one.
I was going between him and Max.
Okay, yeah, you
But
kept Max.
I got Leclerc.
And all 3 of us, kept Oscar off it. Just saying.
Yeah, pulling for Lando on this one. Lando needs a good weekend.
He does. He really needs it.
What about the race? So that's sprint. What about the one that matters? Which one? What do we got there? Thomas, you want to start us off?
I'm gonna say Oscar, 100% Oscar, and I'm gonna keep it basically the same as my sprint predictions. I think Georgie boy is going to be number 2, and Leclerc is going to be number 3. I don't see Max in this at all for some reason, and I would hope Lewis would be close to the podium, but I don't really see that either from him this race.
All right, I'm going to go with Oscar, Lando, and Max. I think something at Red Bull is going to tweak this weekend, and they're going to have that car set up on point. It's going to be dialed in this weekend, and I just think that it's not as fast as a car as McLaren, and I think with Lando's history here and Oscar's drive to beat him, I think Oscar is going to win because Lando's still going to make a bumble error or some sort of McLaren error on the back end, and Lando's going to get second, and I think Max is going to come third.
For this weekend, I'm going to do Lando, Max, and Gasly.
Bold.
Is it raining this weekend or something that I don't know about?
So I just looked it up. It is raining this weekend on Sunday.
There we
go. And I feel like Gasly just has like a way of like finagling his way into like these like podium positions when he has zero reason to be there. So I don't know why I got a feeling for Gasly, but I got Gasly in third for some reason.
All right, I'll take it.
To me.
I'll take it.
Before we sign off, speaking of liveries earlier, Caddy is coming to Miami with their livery. Maybe a couple of driver announcements. I don't know. There's some rumors floating around.
Our boy Checo's in town.
Mm-hmm. He could be an interesting fit. There's been rumors about Joe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe being the second driver.
Mm-hmm.
Who'd you put for that driver pairing?
What did we say here? So we have Sergio Perez. So 7-time race winner Juan Pablo Montoya thinks that Perez will drive alongside current Ferrari reserve driver Joe Granu for 2026. So what I'm getting out of those 2 drivers immediately based on those predictions and others who have predicted the same is that Cadillac is going for the guys with money and sponsorship behind them. Because Checo has an entire country and a lot of Mexican pesos with him, and Joe Granu has China behind him and a lot of whatever Chinese currency is.
Yen.
Isn't it the
Bring in the
Japanese
yen.
Isn't it the Japanese
It's
yen?
No, I think there's a Chinese
yen.
They both have
Yen,
yens.
yeah.
There's 2 yens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but they are different. I've
Okay.
made that mistake a couple of times, like buying stuff off eBay and making the wrong conversion. And let me tell you, it matters.
Yeah.
There is a
Yeah,
big
it does
difference. Yeah. Yens matter. Okay.
Is it yin and yang or what?
It's yen and yen. So we got the money rolling in. What about an American driver?
That's what I
We got no
expected.
one. We got no one on the.
Driver.
I was reading something earlier who talked about Colton Herta, who's in IndyCar right now. He's with the McLaren guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's been waiting around forever for an actual McLaren drive, which is not happening for whatever reason. I don't know if it's a money thing. I don't know if it's a talent thing, but maybe
I think
he
getting
would
an
be.
American driver in there would be smart. And I think if they have
out.
some sort of race pedigree, I think it would be definitely a smart play. But I also understand too that money talks. You know what I mean? Checo and Joe bring some big dollars, and they will be well celebrated in at least 2 races. Actually, all the U.S. races, so the 3 U.S. races, Mexico and China, they will be well celebrated. So
I'm surprised there's no young Andretti that they would put in that seat.
I thought about that too. Isn't there like an Andretti's Juniors Junior?
There's got to be somebody out there.
Yeah.
Anyways, so they're coming with their livery. I don't know what it's going to look like. Presumably black and something. Hopefully it'll look sick. I know you're excited for it. So
excited.
So excited. Boys, that's it. I guess we're looking forward to Miami. I think we're just looking forward to racing.
That's
something. Yeah, we'll just watch something. It'll be good. It'll be fine. We'll have something to talk about next week because we're going to recap Miami, and hopefully there's going to be a lot to talk about. Have a sprint race. We're going to have some rain on Sunday. We're going to have all the hype and all the hoopla over it.
Is that hypela?
Hypela? Anyways, gentlemen, this has been fun.
Always.
Shout out the Discord, socials, find us everywhere. Find it in the show notes. You know where to go. For Thomas, Drew, I'm Walker. This has been Formula One True North, the Canadian Formula One podcast. Ciao for now.
Peace.